If you've been thinking about making cheese at home, today is the day to start because I'm going to show you how to do it. And best of all, this recipe uses only 3 ingredients. Yes, you heard me right. Just 3 simple ingredients that you can find in your kitchen or in your fridge right now. If you're ready, let's get started. I'll be using whole milk for this demonstration, but you can use 2% or even skim milk. Just know that the lower the fat content, the less cheese you'll yield. So if you have a plethora of milk in your fridge and you want to reduce the quantity, try using lower fat milk. But for today, we'll be starting with 1 gallon whole milk. Add it to your slow cooker. Then grab your thermometer and let's get to work. The first step to making cheese is heating the milk to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. This will take about 30 minutes in the slow cooker. We're almost there. And once you reach 86 degrees, turn off your slow cooker and begin cooling the milk to room temperature. To do this quickly, place your bowl in an ice bath and then transfer the warm milk into it. Continue adding ice and mixing until the milk reaches 50 degrees. I usually try to finish this step within 20 minutes so that the bacteria doesn't have too much time to grow in the milk. While the milk is cooling down, let's prepare our cultures. I'm using a freeze-dried yogurt culture for today's recipe. Just be sure whatever culture you use is safe for consumption after being heated. Now, most cultures require rehydration. This means that you need to add some non-chlorinated water to bring the culture back to life. You then let it sit for a few minutes before introducing it to the milk. For this recipe, we'll be using the mesophilic direct dairy culture. The package instructions say to use 1 teaspoon per quart of milk. Since I'll be making about a quart of cheese, I'll use 1.2 a teaspoon of the dairy culture in a small bowl. Mix together the rehydrated culture and the water. Let's take a quick peek at what it looks like. Looks good. Now pour it into the cooled milk. Next, stir it in slowly and thoroughly. The reason we want to introduce the culture slowly is so that we don't shock the bacteria. We want to give it a chance to adjust to its new environment so that it can thrive and multiply. Once it's fully mixed in, cover the bowl and let's set it somewhere warm to incubate for 4 hours. Now, while we wait the 4 hours out, let's talk about why cheese making is so amazing. First of all, it's extremely easy to do. And second of all, it's super healthy. There are many different types of cheeses and each one has different nutrients and health benefits. For example, cheddar cheese is high in calcium and vitamin A. Goat cheese is great for those who suffer from lactose intolerance, and blue cheese actually helps aid digestion. Not to mention is a great way to use up leftover milk. It can also help preserve it longer since the pH becomes more acidic and the bacteria stops multiplying. Plus, it's simply delicious. Who doesn't love cheese? And speaking of milk, did you know that cows produce about 30 pounds of milk per day? That's equivalent to 136 cups. No wonder my cow Clarabelle is always so full. She must be producing tons of milk every day. I really wish she would make cheese instead of drinking it all. That would make her utterly happy. Okay, bad joke, I know. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, cheese. Making cheese is not only fun and healthy, but it's also very versatile. You can make any type of cheese you want, from mozzarella sticks to cheddar blocks. Or if you're feeling fancy, you can make some feta or camembert. You can even color it with natural food coloring or add herbs and spices for extra flavor. The possibilities are endless when it comes to making cheese. But now it's time to get back to work. Our cheese is probably ready by now, so let's check it out. Give it a gentle stir and then take a small amount and place it on a chilled plate. Let's see what it looks like. It's already starting to solidify. That's exactly what we want. And remember, cheese is just milk's way of saying, I love you in a more permanent way. So go ahead and give your cheese a big hug. It'll love you back, promise. So our cheese is ready. Now let's move on to the next step, which is cutting it into cubes. Grab your knife and cut it into 1-inch cubes. Be sure to cut it evenly so that all the pieces look the same. That'll make them cook and melt at the same rate later on. Once you've cut all the pieces, place them in a single layer on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Then sprinkle some salt and pepper on top for flavor. Pop it in the oven and bake it for 1 hour at 200 degrees. After an hour, remove it from the oven and let it cool completely on a wire rack. While it's cooling, let's prepare our brine solution. Add water and kosher salt to a saucepan. Bring it to a boil over medium heat, stirring occasionally until the salt is dissolved. Once it's dissolved, remove it from the heat and let it cool completely. Next, we're going to submerge the baked cheese in the brine for 1 hour. This will help preserve it longer and give it a nice salty flavor. After an hour, remove the cheese from the brine and pat it dry with some paper towels. Then store it in an airtight container in the refrigerator for 2 weeks. I usually eat mine within the first week because it gets addicting once you open the container. You may not think that cheese could taste better after being submerged in salt water, but trust me, it does. The salt really brings out the flavor of the milk, and the longer it sits in the brine, the saltier and firmer it becomes. So now it's time to enjoy your delicious homemade cheese. I like to eat mine with a nice crusty bread and some fruit preserves. It makes for a perfect snack or light meal. So go ahead and dig in. And don't forget to save some room for dessert. I have an amazing recipe for strawberry shortcake that you have to try. Just click on this video on screen now to get started. Alright, so here's a fun fact for the day. Did you know that the world's largest cheese ever made weighed in at a whopping 13,283 pounds? That's heavier than 10 adult hippos. The cheese was made in Wisconsin in 1974, and it took 2 years to complete. Imagine biting into a cheese that. Oh, yikes! Alright, now let's move on to our next cheese-related fun fact. Did you know that Switzerland consumes the most cheese in the world? On average, each person eats 44 pounds of cheese per year. That's more than double the amount of cheese eaten in the United States. I guess all those cheese shops in Switzerland aren't just for show. Alright, now let's move on to our third and final cheese-related fun fact. Did you know that cheese was invented around 8000 BC in northern Iran? That's more than 1,000 years ago. The invention of cheese making is believed to have occurred accidentally when milk was stored in animal skins. The milk curdled, and the resulting substance was so delicious that people started making cheese on purpose. I bet they had no idea what a huge impact their accidental discovery would have on the world. Cheese has become one of the most popular foods in the world and is enjoyed by billions of people. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.